I'm extremely bored today, so I'm making a video. I literally have nothing to do. Michigan right now got hit with a heat wave. It's not even really a heat wave. It's more or less like heat wave slash humidity slash death. Like, it's just really, really bad. Like, I feel like we live down south right now. We're not Michiganders. We're not used to this. I mean, we are, but then again, we're not, because usually around this time of year, around August, it'll start to get really, really hot. But the people that suffer with allergies like me, it's really bad. Like, I have dark circles under my eyes right now. I'm completely congested. Postnasal drippage. Just, I can feel it in my chest. Like, it's just horrible. My skin's like really acting up right now too, like really red. It's just been bad. Like, it's been really bad the past couple of days. It's just pure hell. So I'm bored. We have nothing to do right now because it's too damn hot and it's thunderstorming, but it's not one of those cooling thunderstorms. It's one of those not heat, but it's one of those humid, muggy thunderstorms where you're just like, so it's been one of those days, and it's a Monday. My daughter left a juice sitting on her bed. I've literally been on the phone since 10 a.m. this morning with nonstop people. It's been school, because we're getting closer to school, dentists, doctor's appointments, bill collectors, insurance agencies, car people, just nonstop. And Mondays are usually pretty chaotic for me because of the fact that, well, I have a very chaotic life, and that's pretty much what I'm going to be talking about in this video. I want to make a video talking about something that I don't think gets talked about enough, for parents that suffer with this. Not really suffer, but parents that are going through this. I'm new to the scene. I recently just got put into this situation about 2 or 3 years ago, and I never thought I would be in it. I am a mother of a severe ADHD as well as autistic spectrum child. The state that I live in, Michigan, I'm not going to give cities or anything like that away, but I live in Michigan. Michigan is really kind of, for lack of better words, they're kind of a pain in the ass when it comes to autism. They try to hush put it away, and they try to find other diagnoses to give the children, when all in all it's autism. My son has been in and out of doctor's offices and specialists for the past 5 years. It's been, well, he started showing signs of it when he was 2. When he hit 2, that's when it started. It was the worst summer of my life. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't understand it. He literally went from a sweet, bubbly, really curious about the world child to angry and hyper and just wouldn't go to sleep, never ate, just crazy, like every single day. I didn't know what was going on. Now, I do have another child from a previous relationship and marriage, and she has ADD and she has autism. She was diagnosed with autism when she was 1.5, 2 years old, and she has ADD. ADD is not the same as ADHD. ADHD is attention deficit hyperactive disorder. ADD is just attention deficit disorder. Basically, ADHD is the worst one to have. ADHD is, the child is basically what it says. The child is overly hyper. They're always just constantly moving all the time. They're constantly talking. They never sit still. They're just always, all the time, going, like the Energizer Bunny. They also have a hard time focusing, because that's the attention deficit. They have a really, really hard time focusing. They can't stay on one subject for too long. He started out when he was 6, 7 months old. I would read books to him. We would sit on the couch. He was an only child, so it was just me and him. I would read books to him, and I did this all the way up until he was 2 years old. That's around the time that I started to notice that he wasn't paying attention anymore. He started to just get up and he would just walk off. He was just really like not focusing. I couldn't like get him to really look at the pages with me and point out animals or whatever. He was like over it. He didn't care anymore. Then I found out I was pregnant. I ended up finding out I was pregnant with my third child. It was a really joyous time. I found out I was pregnant in winter of 2018. Early 2018. I found out in February. And my pregnancy took a hit because of the ADHD. Not the baby himself. The baby didn't take a hit. It was more or less, it wasn't a very relaxing pregnancy for me. That was the summer that everything went downhill with him. This is when my oldest son was turning 3. He turned 3 in May of 2018, and it was just getting worse. My husband at that time ended up getting and I'm making this video to let people know and to sympathize with people. I'm getting a phone call. One second. Yeah, it's not even important. This was the time that my husband ended up getting a full-time job, and he ended up, we got blessed with this. We needed it at that time. It was just a really chaotic time for us. We just found out we were expecting a new baby, so he needed to work. We both were not prepared for what was going to happen that summer. We didn't even realize it because, like I said, before he got his diagnosis and before this happened, he was fine. He was a normal, typical child. He loved watching TV. He loved Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. He loved Disney Channel. He would play with his toys. He was adventurous. Nothing was really wrong. Right after or around his 3rd birthday, I'd have to say a little bit before his third birthday, and we were going into summer. That was a very hot summer. I remember it was we had just moved into the neighborhood, so I didn't know anybody out here, and he couldn't go outside because he was 2.5, 3 years old, and also I was pregnant, and I didn't feel like being out in the heat. It was very oppressing that summer. It was really hot, and we were stuck in the house a lot, and that's when I started to notice a lot of the symptoms because we were home all the time. I struggled with him when it came to potty training. That was the summer that we also started potty training him, or I did. Because he had a baby brother coming, and I knew that I didn't want to have 2 kids in diapers, and struggle with that. So I was like, I got to get him potty trained like now. Boy, was that a struggle. Like I said, it's attention deficit, and that's the signs that he started to show. He wasn't listening to me. He would do really good during the day. Like if I had a timer, he would do really good, but at night, for some odd reason, just as the night started to progress on, he would start to just kind of slack off, which is normal. This is normal for kids to do. This is normal for them to be like, I don't want to do this anymore, and they get tired of it. That's normal. But this was months were going by of us potty training every day, and it was starting to get to a point where I just started to realize something wasn't right. Then nighttime sleeping issues started to kick in. It was going on one time. I remember it was going on 1:30 in the morning, and he was still awake. Now, mind you, I'm pregnant, and when you're pregnant, you're exhausted. Your body's tired, your brain's tired, you're achy, you're puking, you don't feel good. I was going through morning sickness, and I had a lot of issues with that. And this is kind of hold on one second, you guys. Hello?
Yeah. How did you manage to get double booked?
Hey, can I call you later? Because I'm doing something right now.
Yeah, sure.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Anyways, so he stayed up till 1:30 in the morning one time, but it wasn't just staying up. Like, it wasn't like, oh, he just didn't want to go to bed. This started to progress, and it was every single night he was doing this. Every single night. He was getting like 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night. He'd wake up at the crack of dawn, and he'd be ready to go. Hyper. I mean, as soon as his feet hit the floor. The other thing I noticed was he started night terrors. I mean, screaming bloody murder in the middle of the night. I'm talking like he had just seen a ghost. Like, he was screaming in horror. And I couldn't get him to calm down. Like, it was more or less like he was determined. Like, everybody's contacting me right now all of a sudden. I don't know why. He was determined that there was something wrong, and there wasn't anything wrong. There was nothing wrong. It was just him. His brain was developing the ADHD, and it was getting more severe. Finally, after a certain point of me struggling with him, and I started to see that he was starting to lose weight because of it, and he was not eating right, and he wasn't sleeping right, and he wasn't doing things, I started taking him to doctors, and I started taking him to his pediatrician, and I started trying to get him evaluated. When he was 3 years old, I had a really hard time with his pediatrician. She wasn't listening to me. It was more or less, she was, without really saying it out loud, she kind of was just saying that I was stressed out because I was pregnant, and I was getting overwhelmed with him because he was 3 years old, and I was having a hard time. All that summer, I struggled to get him seen. I had to constantly struggle with him. Started to become a nightmare in my house. Now I'm getting bigger, I'm getting more pregnant, and he's getting worse. I remember it was around June or July of 2018. It was, like I said, it was really hot. We were stuck in the house. Now we're having no more naps. He decided one day, I'm not napping anymore. And he just stopped. Now he's not sleeping at night, and he's not taking his naps. He was pretty much exhausted. I could see that his eyes, he had dark circles under his eyes. Mom had dark circles under her eyes. We're both crabby. We're both tired. So I came to a point where I said, okay, well, if he's not going to take a nap, this is back when he still had his crib. He was still sleeping in a crib. I said, if he's not going to take a nap, we can do quiet time. Well, quiet time was only going to be like an hour, for me to take a break, and he can still have his quiet time. A lot of parents do it. So, sometimes he would actually, he would enjoy it. This was before ADHD kicked in. I remember the day. It was horrible. It got really quiet in his room, and I was like, maybe he fell asleep. No big deal. I was like, maybe he's finally taking a nap. I set a timer in my microwave, and it had only been 45 minutes. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go upstairs and check. Like, this is, I'm just gonna check on him. I thought he fell asleep because this is what he used to do. This is before everything, before I even knew. Like I said, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I had no idea. I walked upstairs, and I walk into his room, and he got out of his crib, and there was feces everywhere. He had, somebody's truck he just blew a tire, and he's driving on a flat. That sucks. I think I have ADHD now. There's feces everywhere. He had taken it out of his diaper. He found it in his diaper. He took his diaper off, and he wiped it all over his room. I'm talking, this was the room that he was in. This wall just recently got painted, so you can't see the marks anymore, but as you can tell, it's not completely done. Everywhere. Here, it was over there by that door. It was like in the corner over there. It was on that wall. It was on that closet door. It was on that wall. It was over here in front of this window. It was everywhere. And at that time, 3 years ago or 4 years ago, there was carpet in this room. Now it has hardwood floors. We redid it. It was in the carpet. I'm pregnant with morning sickness. I'm alone. I didn't know what to do. It sounds simple, but it's not simple when you're in this kind of situation. I just cleaned it up, gave him a shower, and said we were done for the nap for the day. Now, at this time, I thought that maybe he was just, being butthead, and I thought he was just being dumb that day, and he was, just trying to get on my nerves, whatever. I said, forget it, skip the nap today. After the room was clean, everything was done, we skipped it. Next day comes, and, I don't remember the exact day this happened, but I know at that point, after that day, it continued every single day. It never stopped. Every single day, he did the same thing every day. The one day he did it, I came upstairs. Now, we're getting to a point where I'm coming upstairs every 5 minutes because I don't trust him anymore, and I know what he's going to do. getting out of his crib now. So it's getting to the point now where I know. And now I come upstairs, 15 minutes have gone by. This was the scariest thing I've ever seen in my whole life. Thank God I came upstairs and I did. And he's standing in his window. We're on the second floor and nothing between him except a screen. The window was open because it was hot out. So obviously he has to have air in his room. I freaked out, ran, grabbed him, got him down, and that was it. That was the final straw. I broke down in tears. I knew that there was something wrong. I contact his pediatrician. I start talking to her again about what had happened. It's falling on deaf ears. Nobody's listening to me. Couple more weeks go by. We're pretty much done with the naps now. They're gone. He's still not sleeping good. Now we're starting to run away. My ex-husband was living with us at the time, and my ex-husband was starting to realize it too. He started to realize that he moved in, which was a huge help. He started to realize that he had severe ADHD. He knew the signs because he knows because he used to have it, and he knew what was going on. One day, me and my ex-husband were in the kitchen. I was making lunch for my son, and I was making sandwiches and stuff, and I go into the living room to give him a sandwich. I'd only been in there for about maybe 5 or 10 minutes. We were just making a sandwich, and me and my ex-husband walk out in the living room, and my son's gone. He's gone. He's 3 years old. He's 3. He was naked. I saw his diaper on the floor in the living room. The sliding back doors were wide open. He's gone. I'm having a full-blown panic attack. I'm running around the neighborhood. I'm like 6.5 months pregnant at this time, maybe 7. And I'm running around with my ex-husband, and we're looking for him. We cannot find him anywhere. I finally end up finding him. And I think now my 2-year-old's upstairs right now. My husband's not watching him very well. He's around the other building because we live in an apartment complex. This is my complex. There's an apartment building in front of me, one on the side, and there's one behind this building. He's at the other apartment complex, about 4 blocks that way, butt naked, and he's standing there laughing. He thinks it's hilarious, and he's still trying to get away from me. And I just remember seeing him standing there, and he was naked, and I remember seeing how thin he was, and the dark circles under his eyes, and how erratic his eyes were, how he was just standing there, and I cried my eyes out because I knew my son was gone. I knew that ADHD was eating his brain. Finally get him back home and get him in the house, and I called my husband. I told him what was going on. My husband's freaking out. He doesn't understand this. So we end up taking him back to the doctors. We take him back to the pediatrician, and as he's in the pediatrician's office, he's in the room that we're in, and he's running in a complete circle in the room in front of me and my husband, just nonstop running, and he won't stop. And he's just, we in the waiting room for like 10 minutes, and he's just nonstop. He was doing repetitive things where he was taking stools and he was mashing them into the doors, and he was nonstop doing it. All the signs and symptoms of autism and ADHD, my son was showing right there in the doctor's office. The doctor comes in the room. What? No, you're supposed to be downstairs with Daddy. That's my 2-year-old. That's my other 2-year-old. He doesn't have ADHD. He's just curious. She comes into the room, and she was annoyed with him because every time he came in there, he did the same thing. He has ADHD. That's what an ADHD child and a mentally disabled child does. They're not going to change. She just didn't want to acknowledge it. So she started getting annoyed with our visits. She didn't want to diagnose. She didn't want to do anything with him. Finally, at 3.5 years old, she decides that he now qualifies for therapy. She wanted him to go to a therapist, and it's through a agency here where I live in Michigan. And I'm thinking, great, awesome. We get to the agency. We end up going to the appointment that he has his intake appointment, and I go to see the therapist. I'll never forget this. I will be right back. I just heard an uh-oh by my 2-year-old. Man. Anyways, I remember we go to the therapist appointment, and I'm thinking, finally, like a professional, somebody's gonna see this and they're gonna help him. We sit down in the therapy office. He's doing it again. At this time, my son was born. I wasn't pregnant anymore. I had my newborn with me. She wasn't really doing anything with him. I remember she was kind of just staring at me. And I was more focused on my newborn because it was for my oldest son. It was for David. And I thought she was going to have one-on time with him. So I was more focused on my baby. And I was like, let him have his time with the therapist so she can look at him and see it on her own. She kept staring at me. And she kept kind of saying, oh, okay, your baby's fine. Like, you're fine. And so what's going on, Miss Pace? And I told her what had happened with my son the summer before. And, we're in autumn now. And I told her what was going on and wasn't really listening to me. And she says to me, I'll never forget this. She says to me, I think you're getting overwhelmed and I think you need some medication. I was blown away at the rudeness of this therapist. Never, ever did anything with my son. She wasn't jotting anything down for him. She wasn't looking at him. She wasn't watching him. She was judging me as a mother and basically calling me crazy. And that I was just there to get medication for my son so he'd calm down. I knew where she was getting at, and that was the final time that we were there. I never went back to that therapist again. I still was requesting services from this agency, but nothing was really getting done for his ADHD. He's going on 4 years old now. We're going into the next year. And like I said, I'm making this video for people out there that are going through this and they're struggling with their children with ADHD or autism and you're not getting help. Trust me, I know. I went through it, and that's why I'm sharing my story. Now we're going on to, he's 4 years old. He's getting worse. We're getting ready to go into Head Start. He's getting ready to go into the Head Start program. He's not fully potty trained. Now he's endangering himself. He is also endangering his newborn, his younger brother. When his brother was, I want to say he was about 2 months old. He was maybe 2 or 3 months old. He took his bassinet and he flipped it upside down and he threw his newborn brother on the ground. Ironically enough, I was in the kitchen again. This isn't funny, but ironically enough, I was in the kitchen again with my husband making sandwiches. My neighbors are super lazy. They won't get out of their vehicles. So we were cleaning something at that time. We were trying to clean up the upstairs and because we had the baby. And I walked into the living room and my baby was laying on the floor. And the bassinet was flipped over and he was standing there with a smile on his face. I grabbed the baby up off the floor and thank God he's fine. There was nothing wrong with him at all. He was completely fine. I ended up just like looking him over, checking nothing. But I did take him to get assessed and everything, and I took him in and get him checked out. It was mind-boggling. I called his pediatrician again, told him what he had done. Nothing. They actually told me and my husband that he thought that he needed occupational therapy. Occupational therapy is something that you give for people to teach them common core skills. An ADHD child cannot do that when they have no medications and they don't have the proper help that they need. He hit Head Start time, and when he went to school, now the teachers are starting to notice. The school's starting to notice. They're starting to notice he's not paying attention in class. He's getting up. He's walking around. That's when the violence started kicking in. And this is what I was saying earlier, that he started becoming a danger to himself as well as his younger brother. He was punching himself. He was hitting himself. He was scratching himself. He was throwing himself against things. He was choking himself, holding his breath. He was doing anything he could to hurt himself. The school, bless them, they did so good with David. They were so patient with him, and they also were always helping him through everything that he was going through. I'm in the background trying as hard as I possibly can to get him medical help that I can. Right around 4.5 years old is when the doctor finally says to me, and this is the reason why she wouldn't give him medical help, even though he had been sick for almost 2 years at this point. He wasn't 5 years old yet. That's the only reason why you wouldn't give him medical help, is because he wasn't 5 years old yet. He was showing signs at 3 years old. He was showing signs at 2.5 years old. He was reckless at 2.5, 3 years old. He was hurting himself and other people at 2.5, 3 years old. He was causing havoc to himself on 2.5, 3 years old. He was in and out of your office at 2.5, 3 years old for almost 3 years. You saw all the signs and symptoms. You did nothing. And you blamed me and my husband. Finally, at 4.5 years old, she ends up recommending him to a neurologist. Now we're starting to get someplace. At this point, I'm completely fed up. He gets seen by the neurologist. They do find out that he does have behavior issues. He has neurological behavior issues, things that they didn't really know what was going on with him. They also find out that he is autistic. This is another county, mind you. This isn't the county that I was living in. They diagnose him with autism as well as severe chronic ADHD. All of these results get shipped back to my pediatrician so she can read it. We go to the doctor's office and we start going over everything. I tell them what the other county, the hospital had said, and the doctors over in the other county had said. And she looks at me and my husband and says, he doesn't have autism. 3 doctors diagnosed my son with autism. She says no. I contact the doctors over in the other county and let them know exactly what she was saying. They tell me, this isn't the first time this has happened, that the county that I live in is notorious for misdiagnosing children. And that's why they have such a high dropout rate in our county, and why they have a low percentage of graduates in the county that I live in. Basically what they're saying is this county's extremely lazy, as well as they don't want to give funds to children that they don't have to give funds to if they don't want to. I knew in my heart the reason why she was doing it. I knew the reason why she was discluding my child from getting the proper help. I think it was a discriminatory thing, as well as I think that she just has a personal issue with my son. He's been seeing her since he was a baby, but when he hit that stage of ADHD, it was extremely hard for her to see him. She was very rude to my son, and to this day, he's now going on 6 years old. He still does not have the therapy that he needs. He still does not have the proper tools that he needs, but they put him on medication when he turned 5. And he went through 3 different kinds of medications, and one of the medications almost killed him. I noticed it. It was called, I want to say it was clonidine. I'm not really sure, but one of them almost killed him. Again, the county blamed me and my husband. They tried saying that it was me and my husband's fault, that we misread the instructions on the bottle. I'm a medical assistant, as well as I've worked with patients pretty much my whole life. I did not I did not misread the bottle at all. They gave him too high of a dose, as well as they gave him the wrong medication for what he has. The county that I live in did not want to admit to that, and they tried placing blame on me and my husband. You can get in a massive amount of trouble if you try to give somebody the wrong medication. This county doesn't want to be, they don't want to be a blame for that. It's easier to put the parents in jail than to take responsibility for what they did. So after a certain point, I started to get kind of, I was fed up. I said I was done with everything. I was done with the therapy. I was done with these quack doctors. I was done with everything in this county. I could not take it any longer. For about a year, my son didn't have anything. He was going to school. He had a speech therapy. But I was still getting phone calls from the school. I was still getting things. The natural remedies that I was doing at home wasn't working. I was giving him CBD oil. I was giving him melatonin for sleep. And it just wasn't really working very well. It was kind of having adverse effects on him. That is the one thing I want to say to anybody still watching this video. Children with ADHD cannot just take anything. They cannot just take melatonin and, CBD oil. It doesn't work for their brain. I've tried it, trust me. It's due to the fact that their brain doesn't fire off like ours does. So sometimes it can do the opposite, and it can cause things to get worse. That's a little tidbit of information to know about. Finally, at 5.5 years old, I had to, or 5, I guess, yeah, he was about 5.5. I had to bite the bullet and take him back. And now that he was bigger and he was older, he got the proper medicine that he needed, and he's seeing a different psychiatrist. He's now, through fight after fight after fight with me, he is seeing a different psychiatrist, and he is okay. I wouldn't say he's the best psychiatrist, but he's better than the other one. We did have a couple of run-ins with him. We had also a problem with him with the autism thing. He doesn't want to, but I know the reason why he won't, because the company that he works for and the county, they're not allowing him. So it's not really him. It's more or less the county that we live in. They just don't want to diagnose my son with autism. I wanted to have ABA therapy for him. I wanted to have, the things to help him get through these things. He's going on 6 years old, and his comprehension's very low. It's very, very low. He doesn't understand anything. I'd say he probably has the mind of a 4 or 5 year old. I'd say 4. And that is because of the county's fault. They failed him when he was younger. The county that I live in completely failed my son. And now, he'll be 6 next year. He's just now getting the stuff that he needs, and he's just now getting... So basically what I'm saying is, to all the parents out there that are going through this, and you're struggling with your state, you're struggling with your county, you're struggling with a lot of things, and you're thinking, this is never going to end, my child's never going to get the help they need. You are not the only parent that's gone through this. There are many, many, many other parents right now that are fighting the system, that are trying to get help for children with ADHD. It is a very common disability that children have. It's a very common disability, and a lot of counties and a lot of state like to act like it's not a disability. They act like it's just a normal thing to have. ADHD is not a normal thing to have. It is a disability of the brain that it does not, your brain doesn't function like a normal person's brain. It's constantly moving. It's constantly firing off. It never stops. And it causes sleep disorders. It causes eating disorders. It causes learning disorders. It causes social problems. It causes all kinds of other issues. It stems off into other problems. And a lot of states and a lot of counties will try to discredit this and say, oh, it's just the parents' fault. And the most common word that I hear, it's the environment that they're raised in. No. My 2-year-old that I have right now and my daughter was raised in both in the same environment, and neither one of them have ADHD. Neither one of them have problems. Well, my daughter has ADD and autism, but my 2-year-old doesn't have anything. And it's a disability that they are born with. When my oldest that has the problems now, when he was in my belly, I knew something was wrong. I could just feel it. He was always moving around. He was very erratic. His movements were really fast. even when he was a newborn. At first I thought it was great because he was very alert, and he was very looking around, and he learned quick. I mean, he learned really fast. But it was too fast. And also on top of the fact that he was a very busy baby. He never really slept very well. He'd wake up a lot in the middle of the night. And this went on until he was, you know, like I said, 2.5, 3 years old. He still doesn't. He's going on 6 years old, and the boy will stay up all night long if he could. He will not sleep. It's like a gunshot went off outside. But I'm just saying that really do your research. If you're a parent with a child that has this disability, really don't give up on the fight. Don't stop fighting the doctors, the therapists, these people that are trying to tell us how to be parents. These people that are telling you how to deal with this, they don't probably have children with this disability. They don't have a home that is being torn apart by this disability. They don't have any idea of what it's like. That is just their job. That is their job to look at a patient and go, my opinion is I don't think you have it. They don't know anything. And yes, I do believe there needs to be more awareness about this. There needs to be more awareness for parents that are dealing with this, children that are suffering with this, parents that are lost and they don't know what to do and they're struggling. It threw me into depression. It threw me into severe chronic anxiety. I swear to God, I think I think my neighbors are moving. I think I have post-traumatic stress disorder from this. I literally, since that summer, have not been the same since. I have depression. I now have PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoria disorder. My hormones are all completely screwed up because of the stress that I've been under with my son. It causes health problems. It causes other issues in the family and in your life. And that's what doctors and people are not realizing. And I hope to God that one day that there is a foundation or a community of people something that helps children with severe chronic ADHD as well as autism. There is things for autism, but there is nothing for ADHD. There's nothing. You can hear him right now downstairs. He'll go, and he'll run in place. And that was another thing that I showed. He would run in place really fast. Anyways, this video is like 40 minutes long, but I just wanted to make this video for ADHD awareness and as well as to share my story and to let other people out there get to know a little bit more about me, as well as maybe have some sympathy for other people that are going through it, and other women with sons or daughters, and you're a stay-at-home mom and you're going through it and you're like, I don't know what to do, and you're losing your mind. I've been there. I know what it feels like, and I know exactly how it feels to raise a child with a disability. I know exactly how it feels, and it is not an easy job. It is not. And it's a full-time job. There is no clocking out. It's a full-time job, and I salute you because I'm there with you, and I'm still going through it with my son. But there are better days ahead, and it does get better. It does get easier, and don't ever give up on that child, yourself, and don't stop fighting that system, no matter what they say. It is raining right now, and it is so pretty. Anyways, you guys, I just wanted to make this video, and I'm gonna stop because it's like 35 minutes long. All right, peace out, you guys.